Hello. Well, first of all, I want to offer my sympathy to all you Americans on the East Coast who are standing in the path of Hurricane Florence. I'm really sorry that you're going to be subjected to that. They say there's a possibility that it might stay at sea, but it's more likely that it'll strike the United States southeast coast on Thursday. And it's an extremely dangerous major hurricane. And I wish you all luck and stay as safe as you can. What can I say? Now, that was about a physical threat. I'm going to go back across the Atlantic to talk about an existential threat to people in Britain. Or rather, to a certain sort of people in Britain. And it's not from any hurricane, it's from some sections of our own dear police. In this case, the South Yorkshire Police. Now, I'm not saying that it's all police. I'm quite sure that many of the foot soldiers will be just as fed up of this stuff as am I. But for sure, there's a poison coming from a culture in the top ranks of the police. Worse than that, such people will employ only those of like mind. I'm very familiar with how that happened in the BBC. So I can see a grim future for the sort of people who are going to be patrolling our streets in a fairly short time. They're not going to be the sort of people who you'd really like to meet on a dark night. Last week I made a video about the behaviour of the police and how they realise that they've lost the respect of the public. And I have to stress here, this is not all police, of course. There are many brave officers doing a lot of very good work. Unfortunately, though, they seem to be heading into a steadily diminishing minority. And this is because of their change of emphasis, or rather their forced change of emphasis from keeping the peace and catching the sinners, or the ungodly, as used to be said in the Saint, into policing our thoughts. And we can find no better example of that than this particular tweet from the South Yorkshire Police. It goes like this. In addition to reporting hate crime, please report non-crime hate incidents. Let's translate that. That means something that isn't criminal, but you don't like it, and you can report that to the police, they say. I'll get on to what I think they mean, as opposed to saying, in a little while. Anyway, report non-crime incidents, which can include things like offensive or insulting comments online, in person, or in writing. That's interesting. In person means somebody saying something that you don't like. And what it looks like to me is that means you can make an accusation without a witness to back you up. Anyway, let's carry on. Hate will not be tolerated in South Yorkshire. Report it and put a stop to it. Hashtag hate hurts. SY, South Yorkshire. You know, I'm originally from Yorkshire myself. What has happened to the shire of which I used to be so proud? Hate will not be tolerated in South Yorkshire. Think about that. You can not like someone and they won't tolerate that, and you better shut up or you're in trouble. So this is a clip from a radio presenter called Nick Ferrari. He interviewed the South Yorkshire Chief of Police and asked him, what if I have an altercation with another motorist and he calls me a rude word? Can I report that to you? And the Chief of Police said, well, probably not.
If a motorist cuts another motorist up in Rotherham or Barnsley and one says the other a few choice words, we now have to get the police involved, do we?
No, not necessarily. But of course, people who belong to the particular community that's under attack here, maybe to
Under
do with their
attack?
race, their faith or disability, their sexual orientation.
How come you can have police officers talking to motorists who swear at each other?
Well, we don't, because the example you gave, I just said that would not be taken forward in the...
But it hurts. I'm hurt. Someone called me the B word. I'm hurt. I want to talk to a policeman. I'm in Rotherham.
It has to be assessed.
So, what's the point of this tweet then? If there isn't much chance of a report amounting to anything? Well, I reckon I know, and I reckon you know as well. It's not a white man jumping out of his car and slinging a rude epithet at another white man for cutting him up at a junction.
But of course, it's people who belong to the particular community.
What it is if a white man slings a rude epithet at a black man, or even worse, at a Muslim man for cutting him up on a roundabout. What this is talking about is not about white people getting into a row. I have to emphasise, I'm not talking about racial abuse here. I'm talking about ordinary, common or garden, ill-tempered exchange of the sort that happens in the heat of the moment in the best regulated and even the most polite societies. Anywhere, when two people clash over something relatively trivial, they're not talking about two white people shouting at each other. What they really mean is a white person getting into a tangle with some sort of ethnic minority. Not about race, I want to stress, but just about the perception of bad manners of some sort. And what that police tweet is really saying, and note the picture on the tweet, by the way, what it is really saying is, white people, watch your mouths, because we're not on your side, you know. And I know it doesn't say that, but that chief of police himself confirmed that if somebody called Nick Ferrari got called a bastard, however much it offended Mr. Ferrari's sensibilities, then the police would almost certainly not do anything about it. So when would they interfere? As they say they will do in this tweet here.
But of course, it's people who belong to the particular community.
You see, identity insults, identity groups. White people are by their very appearance being criminalised, and the police wonder why they're no longer respected by these same white people. Many white people, especially among the white working classes, suspect they won't get a fair hearing. And I'm not just talking about Tommy Robinson, I'm talking about any ordinary working class man or woman in the street in any of our major cities. Just look what happened when they complained about the mass rapes of their children in that very area, by the way, South Yorkshire. And the joke is that many members of the ethnic minorities don't respect them either. Because like any other group, they have their majority of law-abiding and reasonable and honourable people. At the same time, they have a substantial minority which is only too happy to play the race card or the religion card to get what they want. And in many cases, you know, you can't blame them. If someone is handing out free passes, who wouldn't be tempted to take one? And the police don't seem to have twigged to the fact that appeasement never works. What was that thing Churchill said about appeasement being like a man being nice to a crocodile in the hope that it would eat him last? Anyway, the people being appeased respect that sort of abasement? Not a bit. In fact, they just learn to take advantage of it and laugh up their sleeves. So there are many, and increasingly more, who know that all they have to do is show entitlement and victimhood and they're home and dry. And when an ethnic minority person stands up for what's right, they get squashed as well. Because nothing seems to be more important than appeasement. So, the police have no respect across the board, and there's no clearer example of that than this tweet. Hate will not be tolerated in South Yorkshire. No, it isn't that. White people and anyone of whatever colour who stands up for them will not be tolerated. That's what's going on. I'm very grateful for financial contributions, but if you don't want to give money, you can still help a lot by sharing this and other videos I've made. Also, remember to check your subscription from time to time, as sometimes subscriptions get erased for one reason or another. Till next time.